Hey guys, it's your boy. I wanted to make another Emerald Game Rant, not necessarily because things have been kind of crazy in the last week, and I haven't really had time to edit many things, so don't treat that as an excuse. I'm still committing. I'm still making a commitment here. I don't know if this is going up on a Wednesday, like our usual my upload Wednesday, whatever you want to call it. This will probably be Saturday by the time you're hearing this. So hello from the past to the future. It's your boy Emerald Gamer. Wanted to remake an Emerald Game Rant I had once done in the past, and then decided, I kind of ramble. Like, more so than the usual Emerald Game Rant ramble. I don't really know where I was going with this, but either way, let's just get into it. Why not? And no, that I'm still, like I said, I'm still sticking to the commitment. Sorry for the filler episode this week, whatever. If you're looking forward to more Campaign Evolved or Castle Crashers or whatever we're doing, just please be patient. Your boy's got a lot going on. Alright. So from the title of the video, you might be a little like, where's this going, I guess. I kind of already know what I'm calling this one, so it's been something that's been on my mind. But the reason why I deleted it, and if you've seen the other Emerald Game Rant, where I kind of talked about, hey, I made another one of these, but I didn't really like it, so I got rid of it. I've come to realize that especially if you've been a long time watcher, especially for certain things, it is hard to articulate my thoughts verbally in the moment sometimes, especially if I don't exactly know what I'm feeling about something. I'll have to think about it a lot, is basically what I'm saying. Pokemon is a really big example with that. Scarlet and Violet was such a mixed bag of, I don't know how I'm feeling about this, and I'm kind of having some, like, inner turmoil of, like, is the Pokemon fan in me dying kind of thing. And now that we're on the other end of that, and granted, I have not really truly shared that opinion like I said I was going to, because I felt like it was kind of a moot point. I think Scarlet and Violet is a mostly very not so enjoyed game. And to say that you do enjoy it is valid, whatever. But there's a lot of negatives to it. Anyway, not really getting into that. If you guys want to hear my opinion on that, actually let me know. I don't know. I've been kind of thinking about doing like reviews of games that we've played in the past. Like maybe like little mini ones. Maybe not like huge like like retrospectives or whatever or anything like that. Just like little like, hey, what did I think of this? I did sit and play through the whole thing, and you guys basically saw that. So anyway, just let me know. But I think when I deleted this initial one that the initial one that I'm now making here now, did that make sense? I don't know. I rambled a lot. It wasn't really good. And I don't think I really had a true thought about how I really felt about this kind of thing until kind of more recently, actually. Now, obviously, to state the title, right, I don't think anything should last forever. I think some things are timeless, quote unquote, but I do think there will be a time where everything just every individual thing kind of ceases at some point. At least in how we perceive it, I guess is the best way to put it. When it comes to games, or TV shows, or movies, or whatever. And that's okay. That's fine. I would really prefer it if it didn't go on and drag on forever. But I think it's fine to finish something and end something, and maybe not necessarily continue it, per se, but give us a little snapshot, right? Just something that we missed, or something that, like, we were looking forward to back in the day, just now in a more modern take. I really like that a lot. That's some of my favorite things. I don't really like necessarily like remakes for the sake of remaking something when it comes to a video game, or redoing like some sort of movie or something like that, like reboots and stuff like that. I'm not a huge fan, gonna be honest. I think some of it's done really well, and I think some of it's done like really unnecessarily. Like Resident Evil 4. That's a great one. Resident Evil 4 does not need a remake. Both are really valid games. I like both of them, but Resident Evil 4 is a very good product, to say the least. The base one, anyway. It really didn't need to be touched upon. I'm gonna be honest. They just, like, re-released it, like a remastered, like, upscaled version. Like I think it was like 2, don't check my math or whatever, but 2 or maybe 2 or 3 years before Remake came out, they released that. That was fine. We could have just had that and just moved on with our lives with the port, with the enhanced remastered port, whatever you want to call it. Totally cool with it. Totally cool. I think everybody was. Then we get Remake, and, you know, everyone's like, oh yeah, Remake's pretty good. And I feel like in a sea of negativity around remakes and reboots and stuff like that, especially lately in the last, like, 5-ish years or so, I'd say it was like a passing grade. Because if you look at everything else around it, definitely not very approved of. And frankly, there's a small camp of people that really don't like Resident Evil 4 Remake. I don't really understand the not liking it. I think, again, both games are very valid, personally. But, you know, whatever. To each their own on that, I guess. That's just like a minute detail or whatever. To the point of the video, it's okay for something to end. I think that's 100% okay when it comes to a franchise or whatever, really. Something you enjoy. I think it's okay for that to have a finite ending. But I think it's also pretty okay to bring it back to give us a little window into the story's continuation at some random point. I think that's kind of fun whenever, like, games or movies or TV shows do that. Because typically when you do it that way, it's a really snapshot, like, alright, we already know what's happened, we're gonna maybe cover that, we're gonna follow through within a certain era of the future of this story, or, you know, or whatever, and then that's gonna end, and we're gonna be like, alright, see you guys, maybe never, I don't know, just if we ever come up with anything, sure, but either way, you're only gonna be getting something new, and something only for a brief period of time, so it's kind of short and sweet, and I think I like that kind of stuff. Back last year / very early this year, we finished off Once Upon a Katamari, which is a game that had been mostly dormant, franchise-wise, for like 14 years or something like that, in terms of getting an actual mainline franchise. We've been dealing with them releasing more quality of life upgraded and visually upgraded, slightly visually upgraded anyway. It's Katamari. I mean, the games aren't really known for looking incredible or whatever. It's like a specific art style. But anyway, the re-rolls of the first 2 games have been out for a little bit now. And when we got Once Upon a Katamari, I was really excited, a little scared that it was going to be kind of tainted, more or less. We played through it, and there were so many like little nods and kickbacks to like, oh wow, it's been a long time. Granted, the game's about time, so, you know, maybe looking a little bit too deep into it or whatever, but playing through it and just kind of feeling that nice nostalgia, but also at the same time something just brand new, or being shown something brand new, especially for Katamari, which, if you're not too aware of Katamari, those games are really known for the first 2 games, and then after the first 2 games, everything else is like, there'll be a little stuff here and there that's like added or, you know, messed around with, or you'll get something new, like a new level or something. But for the most part, it's a lot of recycled content, which is fine. That's not really the point I'm trying to make. But in this game, it's completely brand new, has completely brand new mechanics. It's a completely brand new story. Granted, it's, again, Katamari. There's not really much of a story to it, realistically, but they have fun with it, so, you know, they'll give you something just wacky wild. That's Katamari in a nutshell. Also, just play Katamari. I'm a huge Katamari fan. Probably, like, one of my favorite little franchises. Yeah, check it out, if I'm being real. But anyway, at the end of the game, and I was just, like, feeling the credits roll and everything, I went, you know, this is kind of the best game in the franchise for several reasons. I don't know if anyone would actually agree with that with me or anything like that, but I mean, other than nostalgia, I can't really come up with a reason for why it wouldn't be. It was pretty much how I feel like making a return to a franchise should be. They didn't just rehash a bunch of stuff. They really just moved forward in a new direction, and we acknowledge the past while, you know, kind of remaining in the present. Even though the game's about time, so you're in the past, like, a lot. But that's besides the point. Look past that, please. Talking to me on that, by the way. Anyway, but also at the same time, a couple of other examples, right, that I really love. I'm a huge Yu-Gi-Oh person. For those who don't know, we have a channel called CardBois where we primarily do Yu-Gi-Oh content with me and Raspite Gamer Rowan Ryko. Link will be in the description for that. Check it out. It's cool. But my love of card games starts with Yu-Gi-Oh! Nonetheless. Loved it. Watched the show a little bit. Not really all that much, admittedly, growing up, but I played a lot of the video games, and I really loved those. None of those are connected, really, the games in the show or anything. Or really even the show between other versions of the show aren't even really related. I don't know, it's a long story. But anyway, Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters, the nostalgic one that we all kind of know and love if you're a Yu-Gi-Oh! Person, has a finite ending. It begins, there's a lot of filler in the middle, and then it ends. It's about, in total, I couldn't really put a number on it, but I want to say it's like 100 and some episodes of, like, canon, quote-unquote, content if you're a person that looks for only, like, canon stuff in anime. Anyway, it has an ending. Shut and close. Like, there's really not much to it, and the ending is, without spoiling it, even though it's, like, 20 years old at this point or more, the ending's just kind of, it is what it is. Like, you could definitely continue it if you really wanted to, but they didn't. They just moved on to Yu-Gi-Oh! GX some years later, and it's tangentially related and in the future, but not really. Has really nothing to do with the original series at all. They then pretty much rinse and repeat this process for, I don't know, the rest of Yu-Gi-Oh's history so far, as I'm aware, in some shape, way, or form. At least mostly, anyway. There's some exceptions, I'm sure, but randomly, as far as, like, Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters, the original show being ended, I don't know why I put it that way, but being ended, eventually came out with a new movie called Yu-Gi-Oh! Dark Side of Dimensions. A movie that came out, again, several years after the original show had ended, and at least 2 or 3, maybe even 4 shows had come in, did their thing, and then ended themselves. And Dark Side of Dimensions just takes place, I believe it's 2 years after the plot ends, and it's just a nice little, like, window into the characters' lives. There's a problem, the problem gets resolved, and then we say goodbye, and that's really all we've gotten, and probably, I mean, as far as we know, all we'll ever get out of the original show's story as a whole, especially since the creator has passed, unfortunately. R.I.P. to Takahashi, the GOAT, obviously. But with him gone and seemingly the game going in a different direction constantly and how it had been before any of that, you can see that the vision is kind of over. After the story is done, we don't really have too much of a mystery, more or less, on how things, you know, continued from there. We got our little snapshot. It was much later. We got the little nostalgia factor in there, but also we got something brand new. We got something that was not necessarily required by any means, but we weren't trying to make it a whole thing and, you know, bring it back and try and revive it. It was just what it was. And for those people who are kind of wondering about remakes of games specifically to more or less complete the vision that they once had limitations on via whether it be technology or just stuff that happened in the development cycle with storytelling or anything like that, direction-wise, that we're not really talking about. Final Fantasy VII Remake is, or FF7R, whatever you want to call it, is really a great example of them doing that kind of thing. Granted, that's not exactly the whole story. It's kind of like a pseudo time travel plot in a sense. It's the fact that they put remake in front of the first game. It was like a double-edged sword in marketing. I'm not going to go into that into this video or anything, mostly because it's not 100% proven. It's mostly just a fan theory at this point until we see the ending of the third game when it comes out next year. So maybe we'll talk about that some other time. But it's not necessarily like that in that direct comparison. It's just a true continuation of the plot. Here's a point, it ends. I guess you could say technically Final Fantasy VII did that as well with Advent Children, the movie that they made. That, granted, if you ever have time to sit down and watch that movie, even if you really don't know anything about Final Fantasy VII, I definitely recommend watching it. The dub is kind of funny in a bad way. In certain points, it's pretty good. In that, it's a good watch. It's a good watch. I recommend it. But both of those things, Advent Children and Dark Side of Dimensions, those are great examples of just snapshots into the future from where the story ends. It was more of like here's an epilogue, here's a bookmark to the true end of the book. You know, here's a little extra that we didn't really want to put in at the time or couldn't think of, but really makes sense, and we'll, you know, throw it in there just so that way we can have more closure on things. That's cool to me. I really enjoy that. I think reboot and remake culture would be a lot more healthy if they did stuff like that. Now, I think for the sake of a video game, it's a little hard to do that. But in Once Upon a Katamari again, you know, they kind of do really acknowledge the previous games and stuff like that. But because of the nature of the game, they kind of were able to just kind of make it its own thing. I mean, after all, I feel like that was the smartest play they could have done. It's the first game in like 14 years. That's not a game on the PS Vita, who's playing that, and an Apple Arcade game. By the way, I don't even remember the name of that game, but whenever it got announced and I saw that it was on Apple Arcade only, I legitimately raged. I crashed out. I couldn't do it. I was so pissed. What a dumbass move. This shit made me mad. And then there's also a fine line of how long should something last. Back when I made the first video, I had actually spent time and watched the King of the Hill revival. They don't call it anything different. It's just literally a continuation of the show after it's more or less loose. It had a loose ending. It didn't really have like a full ending, but it felt, the last episode of the original show really did feel like an ending at least. So I guess we could say it's an example of this. It's not really. It's actually just bringing it back. Now, when there was only just one season in the wings, I would say it's more of a better example of this, and I actually really did like it. Now, I bet you're wondering, Cole, Emerald Gamer, are you 50? Are you watching King of the Hill and actually enjoying it? And my response to that is, no, I'm 28, and frankly, you know, if I was 50, I would hate anything animated or probably video games or, you know, whatever. I don't know. 50-year-olds don't watch King of the Hill. Weird people do. Just kidding. I'm playing a joke. It's jokes. But in case anyone's actually curious, to give kind of a spoiler-free impression of what I thought of that revival season, right? I thought that in just the one season, we kind of got like a really nice medium. We got a nice like in between of, here's this little snapshot. We're gonna just continue on with some of the loose ends and see how things really turned out with the plot that was kind of set forward in motion by the ending of the original show, to here's a new era of things. Not really necessarily, again, a remake, but a revival, if you will, of the franchise. Especially with all of the things that had changed, including the really weird, unfortunate death of like 3 of the cast members in that time, from the show's ending up until the show's revival. Things just seemed like it was, by the end of that series, it was more or less wrapping up, and it was kind of giving like a history repeats itself kind of thing. I really liked it. It was a nice like little moot ending. Like in general, it was like underwhelming but like in the best way possible. Does that make sense? I don't know. Do you have to have like a crazy ending to everything too on top of that? I know that's not really the topic, but no. I think the ending can just kind of be what it is. Going back to Yu-Gi-Oh, I think like the ending of that show is actually pretty just meh. Like, nothing really happens in the ending of that show. It's more or less just the resolution of a problem that was kind of created at the beginning of the show, but wasn't really necessarily the main focus or point of the actual show until there were certain points. Like, they covered it in certain episodes, but just Yugi getting the Pharaoh home, basically, like, back to where he belongs, was, like, basically supposed to be the whole plot of the show, but clearly it's not what they focus on at all, because, well, one, they want to sell cart game, and two, well, shit gets in the way, man. They need him in that time until they, you know, find an excuse to, you know, set him off, like, be able to actually, like, solve the problem that the show kind of presented itself as. And I thought that's how the revival season was just going to be. I thought it was really just going to be kind of a, hey, if you were a fan of the show, like, at the time, or growing up, or, you know, whatever. I get it, I'm weird for this, but, like, what King of the Hill was on, man, I watched it because it was leading into Adult Swim growing up. It was the first show that they played right when Adult Swim started, as, like, the nice, like, soft lead in before they got into the quote-unquote harder stuff. And then also, like, growing up watching Toonami every week, like, every Saturday and stuff, like, yeah, if you wanted to not miss anything, you kind of had to sit through King of the Hill, bro. I don't know what else to tell you. And, you know, sometimes you come out of that tunnel being like, you know what, I think I like this show. I think it's definitely started the Stockholm Syndrome, but, you know, whatever, who cares, right? Who cares? If you like what you like, bro, I don't know. But with the announcement of this season 2, per se, and it actually actively coming out, I think it's done by the time this has been recorded, but I'm just gonna binge it, honestly. I'm not a huge fan of binge watching, but I think something like this is something I can just kind of binge and just get it over with, in a sense, and just kind of take it all in at once. And you just, again, treat it like that snapshot of time in the return, rather than treating it like it's oh, this is a big long episode, like 100 episode commitment to something. I don't know. I know this isn't really necessarily pertaining to games on this one, by the way, but I do think it applies to games pretty well in general. I think especially a lot of the hate on remake or the R-word culture when it comes to gaming, or whatever you want to call it, kind of gets a little out of hand. I see a lot of just pure negativity out of a remake of things, or revive, or remaster, or whatever. And then there's also some people that are just like, oh no, bro, it shouldn't have been a remake. It should have been another R word, or oh, it shouldn't have been a revive. They should have just rehauled it, or whatever. I don't know. Go to the re-store and buy another the re-word. I guess we should call it the re-word. Because you also look at something like Star Fox. Star Fox has gone through, I believe, there's like a meme chart for it somewhere. I couldn't find it for the sake of making this video or whatever. But it's gone through like every like possible. It's been remaked, it's been remastered, it's been reimagined, it's been whatever. In so many aspects. Star Fox 64 specifically, or I guess even just Star Fox, because Star Fox 64 is just a remake of Star Fox, really, is supposed to be the idea. I don't know, it's weird, whatever. Yeah, just very strange, or whatever. I think I'm getting that right anyway. Again, fact check me, but that's my understanding, is that Star Fox 64 is like a remake in itself of that game. Which, whatever, man. Whatever you want to do. But the fact that they don't move on from that plot very often is, I think, what upsets people, more or less, or what deters people a lot. The new game that just came out for Nintendo Switch 2, I think, adds a lot of value to it. Personally, I haven't played a whole lot of it. I don't own it. I just kind of played like a little demo of it or whatever. I think it was really cool in that sense. But I've always liked Star Fox 64. That game's really fun to just play in general. I don't really necessarily think that it needs a full... If it's going to get another full-blown release, you might as well do a whole lot with it than instead of like a little with it, like what they did, personally. But I think what they did with that was close to enough, but not quite. I think they should really focus on trying to move forward the story rather than just kind of beating the dead horse. And I think that's what people really get, like Star Fox specifically, is what people really get more or less fatigued on. It's an example of what people really get fatigued on and stuff these days, which is valid. I totally get it. I totally understand, because why are you paying full price for another re-release of Star Fox again? You know, once we can forgive it, twice or more, I don't know, bro. It's kind of getting a little much, I guess. I'll just play Star Fox 64, man. It's not, you know, not that big of a deal. But some people just don't have access to that, or some people never had that experience in the first place. So maybe to some people, or to those people, it's not really exactly a beating of the dead horse. It's more or less allowing them to join the club, you know. But also, Star Fox is a stagnant franchise for that. It doesn't really move. It's moved in plot, I think, technically 3 times in total. If Star Fox 2, Star Fox Adventures, Star Fox Assault, and then there's Star Fox Command Mission or whatever. So 4 times. Star Fox Zero doesn't count. It's a reimagining of Star Fox 64. That's a fact. It's literally just Star Fox 64 again. But other than that, they tried to move it like 4 times, or move it forward, and I think more or less it was relatively successful. Star Fox Adventures, in my opinion, is not a great game. I think it's kind of boo-boo, but I think it at least did something different, and it actually added to the story and lore. For better or for worse, is actually kind of more of a refreshing thing for that franchise. I mean, after all, early internet really loved Crystal, or whatever her name is. Does she have a full name? Anyway, most people have a full name. Does she have a full name? I don't know. Somebody else Google it. I'm not doing it. I'm not looking up Crystal on Google. I'm good. I want to see what I find. Too many people are gooned out of their mind. I think ultimately, you know, we can have something end, and I think there's something beautiful and something coming to an end after a long journey. But I also think it's okay to pick it back up again, in the sense of having something new to look at, or having something new to work with. Just don't turn the new thing into a whole new thing. Just give us that snapshot. That's all I ask. Anyway, rant over. Thank you guys so much for watching. Sorry that I didn't get the video up on Wednesday up on time. Subscribe, like, if you honestly want to hear my thoughts or opinions or anything on like a general topic of something that I feel like I could do for an Emerald Gamerant and not the podcast, just let me know, honestly. That seems like a fun idea. I don't know. Just put down in them comments, be like, hey, talk about this. I want to hear about this. And you know what? Even if your idea is more podcast worthy, we might cover it on the Hidden Gems podcast. Check out Hidden Gems podcast too. You'll see the playlist somewhere on the screen. Like right about, well, you probably already seen it because this video is about to end. Either way, look out for more Emerald Game Rants in the future whenever I feel like I have something to talk about. Because it's kind of cool and fun to just voice my opinion out there. See you guys next week for an actual gameplay video of some variety. Yippee! Goodbye!